DAWs. I see them in my nightmares at this point. Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to Recording Studio Loser, and we're back trying some other DAWs. Today's DAW of choice is going to be Ableton. Now, I am a Pro Tools boy. I have used it for decades, but I want to see what else is out there. Using my knowledge of Pro Tools, how quick can I get up and running in these other DAWs? And I've tried a few at this point. Look back at some of the other videos for your favorites and tell me why I'm wrong. But seriously, if you like these videos, hit like, hit subscribe if you're along for the ride to help me find these other things that DAWs can teach us. Every time I've tried some, I've learned something about a cool workflow that I haven't thought about that I can incorporate in like every DAW that I'm using. And although I am a commercial space and it's going to be really, really difficult to replace Pro Tools for that because so many other people work in and around this space, for my own workflow, I have found some really useful things from the other DAWs that I'm trying. So I'm excited to get my hands on Ableton. Now, this is not a mix tutorial, although if you look close you will find some tips and tricks that I do in just about every mix that I do. And also, this is a good time to mention that this video is sponsored by STL Tones, but more on that later. So without further ado, let's jump into Ableton. I have been very anxious to try Ableton because I have a few other jobs running live sound, and a lot of instances the bands are using Ableton. So I've run into situations where I've had to interact with it, but I don't really know it that well. It is a DAW, but it operates fundamentally different from the user perspective from something like Pro Tools. So this is my first dive into Ableton, and I was really nervous about this one, but I want to figure this out. I want to get good at this because I see a whole lot of opportunities here and things that I can do in Ableton that I necessarily can't do in other DAWs easily, and we're gonna try it. So first off, I know the song I'm gonna pull in is 151. I'm gonna go to the preferences and see if there's a stretch, because I know just from working in Ableton before that it can automatically stretch whatever you bring in. So okay, cool, we're already set up on Pro Tools HDX. Sweet, let's go ahead and configure. And I don't think my hardware inserts go beyond this, but there's 64 total. Okay, we're going to 48. That's it. So then configure 9 and 10 I know is my MVP. 5, 6. Okay, so this is the only one that's gonna be able to operate as a stereo, and that's fine. I need another stressor to make this all even out. Auto warp long samples off. Okay, cool. All right, so we're in 151. The song that I'm gonna bring in is 6/8, so I'm changing that. I generally know where to look for things. Getting into the nitty gritty, nope. So I want to see how quick I can get a mix up here. Tab. Dope. Normally I would call this like the edit window and the mix window. That is session view and arrangement view. That actually makes a whole lot more sense when you think about it. Let's go over here, and I'm gonna pull in, and holding command will take this from putting these things horizontally to vertically, which is what I want. There we go, and it brought them in order. Right, I don't expect to hear anything because probably routed to the wrong output for me. 15 and 16 are my speakers. There we go. Okay, gain staging is gonna be all jacked here. So real quick, let's just build out. I think if I click the top of these, which is weird, I feel like I should be able to drop plugins in here, but one thing about Ableton is it's all down here, which honestly is pretty cool. It's just a different way to think about it. So let's build out a master bus chain real quick here. I do like the search function. So if I go to all results, yep, there they are. Oh gosh. Okay, Pro Q3, let's start there. And this is not a mix tutorial by any stretch of the imagination. This is just, I'm trying to get acquainted with Ableton and see if I dig it. Dope. Okay, so let's get some stuff so we can get this in OBS. There it is. So if I hit through, I'll be able to hear it, and it should also send it to OBS. Dope. And this track, this artist had just come in and recorded, but the vocals on here are scratch. She sang it in one take with the band as they were running it down. So keep that in mind as we're listening. I'm going to play with it as if it's a vocal, but just know that that performance was just a placeholder. Killer artist, by the way, with some really good songs. That will be coming soon. So let's get everything else here. PG master, and I got to keep source next is after. So normally how I would set this bad boy, something. Okay, so if I want something external audio effect. Perfect. Okay, output to my MVP. I see it lighting up, and output from should be the same one, which is 9 and 10. And then I can control the gain on both the input and the output. Totally works. Double click gets me back to a default. That's handy. If you've never used the Rupert Neves Design Portico 2, that is on every single thing on my 2-bus, and the blue silk mode, chef's kiss. It's amazing. Probably single-handedly the biggest hardware purchase that changed the way I mix, and it taught me a lot about mixing, honestly, which is weird. So let's see if I can push this just in the same general vicinity that I'm used to hitting my... We'll start there. Oh, I need SonarWorks. And this is going to be just for me in the room. You guys won't hear this because Source Nexus is before it. There we go. That's a little better. I like this single button to get between windows. I really like that. Okay, so if I want to put my drums, if I right click these, I see group tracks and link. So if I link them, will like selecting one select all of? Oh, heck yes. Okay. So then if I group those tracks, oops, that didn't work. Okay, select all the drums again. Apparently it works just on the arrangement view window. So group these. Heck yeah, and I've got my drums. Oop. What the heck did I just do? Did I delete everything? I sure did. Well, that's a handy way to delete a track, but I would say it's a little too easy. Okay, drums. Let's go ahead and group everything that needs to be grouped. So I've got my pads and keys. Let's just call that... Oh, Command R will do that. Okay, so keys. And I have all these strings. So what was it? Command R. That's a rename. Group. Command G. Okay, Command G. Where'd it go? Okay, cool. Command R, strings, if I could type. I like this workflow. And then I assume this will close it. Yes. So I don't have to see the tracks that I don't want to see. Like all the strings are going to be treated the same way. These first 3 things here, these 3 tracks are all the same guitar take. That was 2 different cabs mixed together. The first 2 tracks on here, this guy and this guy, were from a Fried Egg audio cab, and each one of those speakers are very different in that cab, so blended together they make for a really nice sound. And then this one was from a totally different cab, so but they're all the same performance, so let's group those together. I'll call that guitar left, and then there's another 3. Man, if I really knew what I was doing in here, this is fast. Guitar right. Okay, I can go ahead and collapse those. I don't need to mess with those anymore. And I imagine I can see things a little better over here. So can I make this mixer larger? I sure can. So I've got sends here. Oh, okay. And those are going to reverb and delay. Can I change this? Let's play with that later. So guitar left. Let's push. Is this pan? Track pan. Okay, cool. Now that we basically have everything ready to go, this is a good time to talk about today's sponsor, STL Tones. They contacted me wanting me to try Control Hub. I wasn't super excited to do it right off the bat. I didn't really understand what it was. A channel strip. Okay, I have 100 channel strips. Why is this one any different? If you get Control Hub, you can then buy artist packs, and each one of these artist packs comes with signal chains of everything that they're kind of known for. Take the Jeff Giuliano pack, my favorite pack and most used. Although that, Will Putney, Mayor Applebaum, Neil Avron, fantastic signal chains to try out. But what's really happening, you have kind of a profile where they're capturing the EQ, the harmonic moves that are happening, everything besides actual compression. And that is happening all behind the scenes when you select a preset. Then you can layer this crazy powerful channel strip right on top of it, where you get a couple EQs, the color module, a compressor, a limiter, effects. The color module alone is worth the price of admission. Trust me on that. I have seriously used this one plugin to mix a whole record. It was just an experiment, and then I liked it so much I ended up sending it to the band. They dug that first one, so I mixed the rest of the record like that. There wasn't a single mix revision that they sent me. So I did 4 to 5 song EP using just this plugin, and that was it. And my outboard compressor on the 2-bus, but that was all. It was pretty staggering, and it has worked its way into my template for sure. So yes, they did pay to sponsor this video. However, this is one you should really try. Don't take my word for it. Go download the trial, link in the description. If it doesn't replace a few plugins for you, at least, I would be shocked. Okay, thank you STL Tones for sponsoring the video. Let's get back to it. So let's just get some stuff on here. I like to go to Artist Packs. Jeff Giuliano is just a solid set. But the compressor on here, switching between a FET and a VCA, is awesome. The only thing I don't like about this compressor is the makeup gain does not seem to work the way it's supposed to work. But that could just be the version that I have. Honestly, everything else about this thing is so freaking solid. And don't take my word for it. Go try it out. Seriously. But if I was going to recommend one pack to you, Jeff Giuliano is awesome. Will Putney is surprisingly useful all over. And the Mayor Applebaum, I mean, that dude has mastered so many great records. And one of his presets, the Glued and Limited, is just tasty on just about everything. But let's start with Jeff Giuliano. There's a guitar preset that I've just freaking love. And again, I always turn off this auto gain and pull the threshold. So can I, if I want to put this, I can copy it. Can I just drop it right in here? Oh! Only thing that's confusing here with Ableton is knowing what track you're on to know what set of plugins I'm looking at down here. So, okay, I know I need a high pass. Let's turn that on, copy that, and I will just go ahead and just paste it right here. Okay, let's get some stuff on the drum bus here. If you've watched any of these, you know me. Billy Decker drums. Oh! That's the wrong one. Does Control-Z work with plugins? It does. I love when Control-Z works with everything. Billy Decker drums every time. Okay, so it sounds like my lo-fi mic is just cranked here. Sure is. Okay, let's bring that back. Quick pan like I'm used to. I don't like having the name way up here. But that could just be because I have a stupid big monitor. Okay, so hi-hat, tom 1, tom 2. And this is, again, not a mix tutorial. This is just how quick can I get up and going. And so far, I haven't found a hurdle. Sweet. I'm going to toss Control Hub on here. There's a 33609, which amazing drum compressor. But this is super aggressive. Listen to it. Here it is engaged, and I'll bypass it. It's just so tasty. I mean, come on. So kick in. Let's do another set of Control Hub. I'm just going to stick with good old Jeff, because this is kind of right up his alley as far as sounds go. Kick. Try this first. It's the only thing is that makeup gain that is just annoys the crap out of me for some reason. But that's an easy enough fix, so. Let's get one on the snare. Back to good old Jeff. Basic snare channel. That is cool, but there's a whole lot of bleed that brought up. So let's bring in some like Oxford drum gate right before it. Oh, did I grab it the right way? Here we go. I really like this style of workflow. This was something like in Studio One, being able to drag and drop almost everything. I freaking love it. I love Oxford Drumgate. When it works, it really works, and it will almost turn your snare into a drum sample. So I like to pull back the gain reduction just a little bit and increase that low end decay. So it's like killing the cymbals, but they're still there. You could just do a little bit more with the snare that you have. So, and putting that before STL will allow me to compress this thing just a little bit more. Strings are just super loud right now. Let's pull those back for the time being. Let's hit bass for a moment. And I'm actually going to pull the vocal down because I don't want to mess with it. It feels like there's a ton of low end buildup in these drums. Can I link these two things from here? Like if I just want to link these guys, can I do that? I don't think so. Show chain. Ah, okay. So I can't link groups. That's kind of a bummer. Can I group these? Oh, I totally can. Groups and groups. I love it. So rename this to all guitars. Renaissance Axe. It's hard for me to mix something without using this plugin. It just sounds so good. Just like RVox, I can't tell you what it does, but I love it. Those are two plugins that I use on literally every single mix that I do. Renaissance Axe, R-Axe, and RVox. And Renaissance Axe actually works on a whole lot of things. Synths, pianos, you can put it on just about anything, and it just adds kind of this cool vibe and grit. It's pretty tasty. I'll link to both of those down below. Super cheap plugins that are just, they will be useful almost anywhere. Alright, we're getting there. Let's see what we can do on some bass here. Now I know there's a Control Hub preset on the Jeff Giuliano side, bass cutter. Let's follow that up with a little double tap. Just one P, Jeremy. You can't spell. A double tap is just so crazy useful just to pin that low end down. And the other place to use this is toms. So let me go find a section where we're hitting some toms here. Okay, there we go. I'm not totally used to how the timeline works. Just like that. Don't put any saturation on the toms because it can get a little weird, but here it is with grunt. Actually didn't sound too bad, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it just like this, and it just kind of pins it down a little bit. And I mean, that has a lot of bleed on it, but I love that bleed coming off this kit. But if you wanted to, you could gate it just like this again, but make sure you do it before the compression. So again, that decay is just too short. And let's pull that back. Let's copy that and paste it. And they are quiet. Let's go ahead and copy double tap as well. I didn't realize I didn't put that on the other one. Cool. And this might be too dead now. Yeah, I like what tom bleed does in this situation, so I'm actually going to turn these off, but you can see how well Oxford works in a situation like this. That's the thing with these DM20s. They bleed like crazy, but the bleed sounds so good. Like it's you're treating your drum as an entire instrument rather than these individual sliced up peaches. Peaches? I must be hungry, individual sliced up pieces of a drum kit and then kind of trying to put them back together. Using mics like that have a lot of bleed, but the bleed sounds good, just makes for a drum mix that's so much easier as long as the player themselves is good. So let's go with some more keys stuff here. And I'm actually going to go to Neil Avron. Has a killer grand piano. Like, again, this color module is worth the price of admission. This thing is cool. As you could push tape saturation and tube. It's just so good. Let alone getting presets like this to learn what people in positions like this would do with sources like this. And these are meant to be starting points, right? So let's actually limit these keys a little bit just to bring them. Start bringing in the vocal, maybe. What did I do here? Oh, I turned it all the way down.
Would have done it so.
You could even hear the drums behind her.
Would have done it so differently.
I mean, that's a killer take for doing it one take live. So let's start with a couple fab filters here. This first one's general carving, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring up like a dynamic vocal 3.
Would have done it so differently.
Cool. Every single vocal, ever, forever and ever, amen. RVox.
Would have done it so differently.
Let's grab a de-esser. I like this drag and drop workflow. I like it a lot. I found that out from Studio One that I really dug that.
Would have done it so differently.
Let's go ahead and grab like an auto tune. And I'm pretty sure this song is in G. Oh, not low male. Let's go with tenor. G major. Slow that retune speed. Humanize.
Would have done it so differently.
Okay. And this is on an 017 FET. I still use 017. I know. Terrible mic to use for scratch vocals, right?
Would have done it. Would have done it so.
Okay. See if it'll crash again.
All seems so minuscule now. It's so easy to be strong in hindsight.
Okay, we are getting toasty over here. It's hard. I'm not used to these faders. So knowing where I am gain-wise, that's a little weird.
Would have done it so differently. Would have done it so differently. How could I have known you'd come for me?
Oh, I was looking for a mute button. All you have to do is engage the number. That's so clever.
Differently.
Can I change this delay? It's not a bad delay. Analog, give me a dotted eighth.
Would have done it so differently. Long in hindsight, when there's nothing left to believe. But
I like the reverb. I like the reverb a lot, actually.
would have done it so differently. would have done it. No guarantee.
And let's smooth out these vocals a little bit.
Would have done it so differently.
I like how those are acting, but I would almost rather just put the effects right on the vocal. I'm wondering if that would kind of do more of the thing that I want it to do.
Would have done it so differently.
That immediately feels better. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't have vintage verb. If you're using vintage verb and you're not going to rich chamber, turning up the size, switching it to 1970s,
Done it so differently. How could I have known you'd come for me? There was no guarantee. There was no guarantee.
something I've been kind of into lately is just putting like, oh, drum transient. Is this like a plugin? This Ableton's like, oh, no, transistor. That's not what I want. Let's bring in like transient master.
Done it so differently. How could I have dreamed it would all seem so minuscule now? It's so easy.
And there's one more thing I want to try with this. I feel like I could quickly get the mix that I want out of this, but the whole other side of Ableton and why I wanted to try it was because it interacts with splice. So if I wanted something at the beginning of this song, let's say I want like some weird drums in here. So I just drop these right in. If I want a drum break in this section for some reason, I could totally have it. It's kind of wild, the amount of things that you can just pop in and it works. But the even more interesting part here, so I can take one little sound out of this that I like, pull this back, and now I have a whole instrument. It's wild. I mean, and this needs to be like crazy wet. Again, if you're not using rich chamber, what are you doing with your life? It's so wild that just like that, you can get inspiration from anything, drop it into Ableton, and it just works. That's not easy to do with a whole lot of software, but it is easy here. So I feel like I could really use Ableton in pre-production and mixing. Like, it's not too far off from the imagination that I could get used to something like this. I would be super interested to try to actually record here and get to know it. I mean, just from the mixing alone, it seemed daunting when I started it, but once you get in here, a lot of this stuff makes sense. And a lot of the tools that are built into this make a whole lot of sense. It is very kind of like programmer minded, so it's not necessarily user friendly right off the bat. If I didn't have the very general working knowledge that I had, or a background in another DAW, I don't know, maybe not having a background would help you here, because it is kind of its own beast, and I don't necessarily know this view very well, where you can just drop sounds in and then trigger those sounds. That's not something I'm super familiar with, but the usability here and the MIDI functionality, I mean, just plugging a controller in, and I don't even have to arm it, I don't have to tell it where I want it to come from, it just works. That is pretty cool. Having used it in a live situation, basically every single week, it is stable. Not that it never crashes, but it is very stable and very lightweight on the system as a whole. And a lot of the programs built into this are integrated into the software themselves, so they are not CPU intensive, at least from what I've found. Even tossing all of my stuff at it, it does seem very, very handy. So this is something I will probably incorporate into my workflow. I don't know that it's going to replace Pro Tools for me, because that's a tough one for me. Working with clients, working on somebody else's dime, I'm going to have to get super comfortable on another software before I can make that jump. But the stuff that happens before and after pre-production, the things I liked about Studio One and Cubase seem to be here, or the pieces that I liked about those seem to be replicatable here. If you like learning what we can learn from DAWs like this along with me, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm honored to have you along for the ride. Let me know what I should try next. Until then, I'm Resident Loser Jeremy, and I'll see you in the next one.